your moderator for today's webinar. I have a few housekeeping items to cover first before we get started. The first is that we will be recording this webinar and it will be available on the LiveWell Colorado website tomorrow. Visit livewellcolorado.org, select LiveWell's commitment, and click on Research and Publications, and you'll see all of our webinars listed right there on our website. We will also be recording the webinar and embedding a link in a follow-up webinar that will be sent out tomorrow afternoon to everyone that has registered for today's webinar. Second, we will have some time for Q&A at the end of the presentation. If possible, please indicate who your question is directed towards. And to ask your question, please type it into the Questions tab on your on-screen control panel. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to our first presenter, Lisa Walvard of LiveWell Colorado.
Great. Thanks, Alex, and thanks, everybody, for being on the call today, and thanks to all of our incredible presenters in the room. I'm just kind of the window dressing for the moment to get us started. Today, we're really going to focus on how some of the local efforts in gardening and farming can be leveraged to feed our neighborhoods healthy foods, and just some incredible examples that we get to share with you today. So our objectives for the day are really to help you become familiar with some of the efforts to scale up urban gardening and farming programs that, as we can say, can provide healthy food access for neighborhoods. Going beyond thinking about that a grocery store or a corner market is the only way for us to feed our neighbors, but this is an integral part of that solution. You'll hear some of the strengths of some of the community partnerships and the other keys to sustainability. I think that's been a theme that we've had throughout this series of webinars, the importance of partnership. I see a couple partners who are repeat visitors in the room. And then discuss a few action steps to initiate and grow these programs in your community. So we're going to hear from four different organizations. And first is from Denver Urban Gardens, increasing neighborhood food security through gardening programs. Then Revision International, that's going to talk about building gardening and farming skills, really a neighbor-to-neighbor approach. And then Urbiculture, talking about engaging communities around neighborhood agriculture. And then a really fun and exciting program, GreenLeaf, which is growing strong youth and food justice programs. And they brought a whole crowd with us. We're very excited for that. And as Alex mentioned, there will be time for Q&A. And if you do have questions, please try to put them in as we go along. And if you know who you want the question to be answered by, if you could include that, that would be very helpful to us. So here's some pictures of all the fun people we've got in the room with us today. We don't always get to have everybody together. So just give you a chance to see who's talking to you. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Shannon Spurlock with Denver Urban Gardens.
Good afternoon. Thank you to LiveWell for having Denver Urban Gardens, also called Doug, as part of this presentation. And I know some people on the call might be familiar with Denver Urban Gardens, and some of you may not. So I thought I might just start off with an overview and really kind of give the scope of our program and our organization and at what level we're impacting food systems. So as an organization, our mission and all of our programming works towards the goal of growing community one urban garden at a time. And in 2012, we were supporting about over 120 community gardens, and this year we're just over 130. The majority of our community gardens they're located in the city and county of Denver, but we actually are working in solidly about 4 different counties. So it's Denver, Jefferson, Adams, and Arapahoe. And 80% of those gardens are what's termed as low to moderately low income neighborhoods. When we measure how much food is produced from those gardens, the impact is really massive. And so what we're looking at is there's an average of community garden plots on average are right around 10 by 15, though that varies by location. But on average, a conservative estimate is that you get about 207 pounds or so of produce out of each plot. And when you kind of run all those numbers, in 2012, we conservatively estimated that there was about 237 tons of produce grown and 23 tons that were donated. So with community gardens on this scale, there are a lot of public health benefits that are also kind of magnified when you're looking at this network. And there are a couple kind of benefits that are highlighted in the PowerPoint, but I also want to highlight two of my favorite, which I haven't listed here. But that community gardeners, actually let me back up a bit. A lot of this research is coming from our partners at the Colorado School of Public Health. So this is how we know this information. But through that research, we found that community gardeners were about twice as more likely to get their 5 fruits and vegetables each day as opposed to the average American. So we're looking at the average Americans right around 25%. Community gardeners are above 50%. And then about 80% of community gardeners, we found out they started gardening as children, whether it was through their grandparents or their parents. I think it's really important when you combine those two statistics that you're looking at a long-term benefits of community gardening and creating healthy opportunities for making, healthy food choices that last a lifetime. So one thing that I think is really good to know is that Denver Urban Gardens was one of the first 3 LiveWell communities in the state of Colorado, and we really focused on 3 neighborhoods in West Denver. But one of the projects that we did that came out of that was Photovoice, and Photovoice is community-based participatory research. And so what it was is at the end of our time as a community, we had community members and teachers and people who had been part of this collective effort go out and document what were the changes that they had seen because of the focus in resources around healthy eating and active living as it related to community gardens and garden-based education. And so I highlighted a couple photos from 2010 that this is a student from Fairmont Elementary in the Baker neighborhood. But the idea that her exposure to urban gardening and garden-based education is influencing that. Well, her quote is, "Access to fresh produce now leads students to the Fairmont garden instead of the corner store. Imagine kids snacking on beans, not hot Cheetos." So kind of opening up that possibility for her and the students that engage in that same garden-based education. And this is one of my favorite photos that came out of it. This is a multi-generational photo, and I want to highlight these quotes, and the descriptions from the photographs came from the mentors and students themselves. And so there's 3 generations here, and this is really speaking to, this family was involved through the community garden at Fairview Elementary, and the idea that the lessons that are learned in the garden at school through garden-based education translated to a change in the home life for this family. And it talks about the 3 generations cooking together, and Jaira, the student, helping her family make healthy lifestyle choices and changes. Dre Dufford, who was part of this Photovoice project and who is the one who did this quote and photo, she is part of Denver Urban Gardens Connecting Generations program, and that's an intergenerational mentoring program that we have at a variety of schools, including Fairview. But through our partnership with the Colorado School of Public Health, there's been some preliminary research that's come out that shows when the more mentor hours that students spend with a mentor, the more positive they self-report their eating behaviors. So their time with a mentor in the garden is also changing how they perceive their own eating habits. One of our garden programs that we have at many of our urban gardens, and this is going to be at our youth farmers markets, predominantly at schools are our youth farmers markets. We also partner with a few boys and girls clubs, and this the Youth Farmers Market program is part of the Youth Farmers Market Coalition, and this is a combined effort really with Denver Urban Gardens and Slow Food Denver taking the lead in that jointly. And before I kind of talk about some of the outcomes of that program and what it's meant for the neighborhoods and communities in which they're located, I want to highlight that Denver Urban Gardens has grown a lot over the 28 years we've existed, and our reach and expansion is due to the partnerships that we have cultivated over those years. And so whether it's Slow Food Denver, Denver Public Schools, Denver Housing Authority, LiveWell Colorado, library districts. There's so many partners that have made this growth and this reach possible. So I want to highlight that as far as others looking at efforts, partnerships are key to that. For the Youth Farmers Market, the combined total for the Youth Farmers Market Coalition, there were 34 sites last year, and they sold about 22,000 pounds of produce. And that's generated about $25,500, and that's the combined for the whole coalition. At several of Denver Urban Garden sites, we also have EBT machines, and the EBT machines allow families who use SNAP benefits, formerly known as food stamps, to use those to buy fresh fruits and vegetables, support the growing at the garden, and local farmers. And our numbers that we have produced for that are lower because they're kind of single farm stand ventures, but they've risen over the years. In 2011, there were, I want to say, just over, let's say, about $300 or so that were redeemed, and that includes a doubling of an incentive program, a double value coupon program that's funded through Wholesome Wave that increases the value of the food stamps. But last year, we were over $800. And so while those numbers are small relative to, I guess, compared to what you might think of as a regular farmer's market, these are individual farm stands, and they are existing to increase food access and sell food at affordable prices. So our whole goal with this program for Denver Urban Gardens is to increase fresh food access in neighborhoods. One of our programs that is predominantly offered in Denver, but we just increased sites throughout the city and county of Denver, is our Free Seeds and Transplants program. And it's a fantastic program, and it allows, what happens is there's an application, and families or organizations can go on and choose seeds that are appropriate for them to grow, whether it's in the community garden or in their backyard, and seedlings that they also want to grow. This program has grown through the years. Last year we had 39 neighborhood-based distribution centers, so that could have been a library, a church, a recreation center. And we had families and organizations sign up for over almost 22,000 feed packets and over 53,000 transplants. So that's a lot of seeds and plants going out to the broader community. But that's another way to measure impact for many of those people don't have the financial means to be able to afford their own food otherwise, and this program is really geared at those with lower income. I'm going to wrap up and just talk about the importance of donation. The first slide hit on that with over 23 tons. And actually, with donation, we have a program set up with our Tri-County Health Department at Delaney Community Farm, which is an urban farm that's part of the Denver Urban Gardens Network. And our focus here is reaching families that are part of the WIC program, which is Women, Infants, Children. And sorry, this isn't so related to donation. I jumped ahead of myself. But with the WIC program, we partner where families can come out in a really family-friendly environment, help us harvest or work on the farm for an hour, and leave with a bag of fresh produce. Last year, through this program, we served 479 WIC clients and distributed 122 half shares to those WIC clients in return. Donation is so important. Urban gardening and urban farming affects the individual, the school, the neighborhood, and it can affect the broader community. And so this is just emphasizing a really informal way. Sometimes gardens put a basket in front, and it says, we've worked hard. Don't pick from our garden, but take what's here. And they're also formal donations. We don't need to go into now, but when it's sent around later on, if you want to reference anything, I hope this will be helpful for you. And I'll pass it off to Eric with revision.
Thank you. Looks like, sorry. Sorry, 1 second. All right, thank you. So honored and excited to be here today. My name is Eric Kornacki. I'm the co-founder and executive director of Revision International. We are a 501c3 organization operating in Denver, and we grow self-sufficient communities by empowering resident-led initiatives. Our primary focus is addressing the lack of healthy, affordable food in low-income communities. We do this by investing in residents to become leaders and change makers, really focusing on building a neighborhood's internal capacity to provide for itself. This approach, we feel, lays the groundwork for developing comprehensive solutions that help advance community food security and build a strong local economy. A little bit about where we work. We currently are operating in Southwest Denver, concentrating in the Westwood neighborhood, one of Denver's many food deserts. A study by Denver Public Health in 2009 found that 76% of residents were at risk to become overweight or obese, which can lead to high rates of diabetes, high blood pressure, and other diet-related illness. And compounding that is that the average per capita income is barely over $11,000 compared with Denver's average of over $37,000. So you can imagine how hard it is to feed a family on that. But perhaps most telling is that Westwood is one of the youngest neighborhoods where over 1 in 3 people are children under the age of 18, with a child poverty rate of over 32%. So our model of building a resident-led food system to increase access to healthy food and food security involves sort of 3 main areas, which I'll touch on throughout the presentation. First is food production. For us, that includes backyard gardens and urban farms. Second is developing food distribution initiatives, currently neighborhood farmers market and CSA programs. And lastly, developing food cooperative that helps aggregate, process, market, and distribute produce that is grown within the community. Our primary strategy to increase food production is through backyard gardens, and since 2009, we have invested in low-income families, teaching them how to produce food right in their own yard, such as David and Irma, one of our favorite families here. And what began with 7 families in 2009 has really exploded into a community movement, now empowering over 200 families to grow their own food. We currently have a wait list of over 100. Here's a map showing sort of our household locations, and this combined growing power, we estimate it's over 1.5 acres, and our conservative estimate is that this year these families will produce over 25,000 pounds of organic produce right in their own yards. We have demonstrated that backyard gardens are an effective way to increase consumption of fresh fruits and vegetables while providing a means for a whole family to change their diet and their lifestyle. We believe that really the proximity of having a backyard garden is really important. If you are a stay-at-home mom and you've got kids, it's much easier to send them out into the yard to pick weeds when they're in trouble, or when cooking dinner to go out as a family into harvest and bring it straight into the kitchen. And we feel that that proximity of living where you're growing and eating is really important. Our secondary strategy for increasing food production is through community urban farms. We have 2 urban farms in Southwest Denver. Residents run these farms. It's a little different where no one owns an individual plot, but they collectively work to grow food, and each person earns a fair share of produce later in the season. And one of our farms is managed by 40 Somali Bantu refugee families that were relocated to Denver in 2006 after spending 16 years in a refugee camp in Kenya. They had been searching for farmland in Denver, but as many of you know, it's very difficult to find the right large vacant parcel where everything comes together, where it makes sense to put it into production. But last year we were fortunate to come across a piece of land in our neighborhood, and with the right partners involved, such as Denver Health, the Denver Foundation, Rocky Mountain Farmers Union, and the Trust for Public Land, we were able to develop a 1.5 acre urban farm. And now in cooperation, the Somali Bantu are farming for the first time in over 20 years, reconnecting them to their ancestral knowledge and planting seeds of a better future for their children. They are experienced farmers. They were traditional subsistence farmers, but they're learning to adjust to Colorado's unique growing climate. And this year, we're estimating that they'll grow over 30,000 pounds of organic produce The majority of it they will sell through a cooperative that Revision is establishing, and then the rest of the produce goes back to feed their families. And like many of the families we work with, the Somali Bantu are farming so that they can sell food and collectively pool their earnings into an educational fund for their children. So this is multi-generational. It's really about using agriculture as a way to create new economic opportunities for a better life in this country. So after developing a foundation of food production, our second strategy in building a resident-led community food system is developing a distribution model that meets the needs of residents. This is a challenge for our community where, as I mentioned, the majority of people are living well below the poverty level and cannot afford to pay market price for locally grown organic produce. So we've established a CSA model that sells shares to community members on a sliding scale. It's flexible in terms of payment and duration. We also, in order to subsidize the cost, this year we'll be selling shares at a market rate to people that can afford to pay that for produce. So we're working with some churches and other faith-based congregations to get to their people to directly support this model. We also accept SNAP EBT. We got that set up last year, a little too late. We only had like 2 transactions, but we're excited to see how that works this year. And our third strategy is the development of a producer co-op that will aggregate and sell surplus food both within food desert neighborhoods and to the surrounding Denver metro area. So Cooperative, real quick, is just a business model that is owned by the users of its services. Most agricultural co-ops either help farmers collectively purchase their inputs, like seed or feed, at a lower cost, or in the case of a marketing co-op, which is what we're establishing, it helps small farmers pool together their produce in order to market and sell it, often under the co-op brand. So this can help increase the economy of scale as well as the efficiency for smaller producers. So in our model, which we are working with the Rocky Mountain Farmers Union Co-op Development Center here in Denver, our 203 backyard farmers, along with the Somali Bantu community, will become the producer member owners of the cooperative. And the way it works is that each member gets paid for what they sell through the co-op, and at the end of the year, they also earn a share of the profit based on how much they contributed. The co-op helps provide insurance and liability and all of that to other small producers as well. And in the future, we're looking at expanding to produce value-added products, manufacture compost, seedlings, and the ultimate goal would be a community-owned grocery store in the food desert. So what I believe is unique to our model of growing a community food system is really our resident approach, which has sort of 2 parts. The first is our Promotora model, which we have pioneered, which is really an approach to resident empowerment and community organizing, where we train residents to become promoters of healthy eating and gardening. So they're sort of a cross between a community health worker, a community organizer, and also an ag extension agent, I guess. Promotora is really, though, our building social network within the community, and they promote healthy living by assigning families that have a garden. So each family is assigned a Promotora that will help them throughout the growing season. Right now, our Promotoras average between 20 and 30 families that they help throughout an entire year. So they're helping each family plan their garden, assess their nutritional needs. They help them plant. We provide seeds, plants, compost to amend their soil, tools to loan out, as well as putting in a drip irrigation system that saves water. And then the Promotora visits each family throughout the entire week, each week throughout the entire year, really to help support the family in learning to grow their own food, but also make changes to their lifestyle and diet over time. So this is Patty, our lead Promotora. She and our other Promotoras are really the most important reason that our backyard garden program has grown to over 200 families so quickly, and that we have such strong community buy-in and ownership in our other food system initiatives. So furthermore, we provide additional job opportunities to residents in helping build this community food system, everything from paying people to help with garden construction to running our farmers market, coordinating our food hub. This year, we were paying residents to help grow seedlings. We produced over 15,000 that we distributed to the community. And really by creating jobs, we're not only giving people the opportunity to use their talents to help feed their neighborhood, but we're also reinforcing the idea that a sustainable food system is one that develops a strong local economy from within. We feel that you really have to address the underlying economic structure of why food deserts exist in the first place. And from our perspective, this is crucial in order to create community food security. It's not simply about increasing access to food. It's also about improving a community's resiliency and self-sufficiency. We really are trying to solve food deserts by helping a community provide for itself by growing its own food. And from this approach, you can then build a local economy. We take an asset-based approach, which views people as the most important resource that a community has. We create good-paying jobs that utilize people's skill sets, and for us, this is what sustainability means. It's all about community ownership. The community must own its own resources, it must control its decisions, and it must build the system itself. And so that's why one of the reasons why we've chosen these models, and particularly the co-op business model, which we're moving towards. It's control and ownership by the people that use its service. It's also democratic in that one member, one vote. So sort of to recap, we really focus on resident-led initiatives through our Promotoras, our backyard gardens, and this has resulted in a community movement to grow food and build a local food economy. To date, as I mentioned, over 300 families have grown food within the neighborhood. We're seeing more resident involvement. It's not just each family on their own, but they're really coming together in this community movement, which has resulted in a stronger voice and more resources for the community. And finally, residents are leading the development of a food cooperative, which will increase economic opportunities while continuing to increase food production, food access, and food security. And we believe that these are measures of long-term sustainability. So thank you, and I'll pass it over to Candace.
Great. Well, my name is Candace Orlando, and I'm the co-founder, executive director, and one farmer with Urbiculture Community Farms. I'm really honored to be here today. I want to thank LiveWell and to all the listeners and to the people that I'm on this webinar with. They have such knowledge, and I'm honored. So just want to talk a little bit about who we are and what we do. I'm really going to talk about community engagement, which was perfect. Eric just kind of led right into that, and about partnerships, which I think is really, really important. So I'm just going to tell you our mission real quick. Urbiculture Community Farms is a multi-plot farm committed to providing food to people of all income levels by sustainably growing affordable local food in the Denver metro area. We engage our community by educating our youth and neighbors on growing food and promoting healthy, active lifestyles, beautifying our neighborhoods with edible landscapes, and lessening the distance from farm to plate. So we're in our 5th season now, and we started with something called neighborhood-supported agriculture. Neighborhood-supported agriculture has been around for a while, and it's kind of made its way into Denver with such wonderful people as Heirloom Gardens and Farmyard and a couple others. And we basically turned front yards and backyards into garden spaces that were once grass. So that's kind of nice to rip out that grass and put in gardens. And we grow food on it. And then people in the neighborhood buy into a share program. So that's in the beginning of the season, they pay a fee, and then they get produce all year long. It was wonderful, and we love it. And we have a waiting list that's, we have 100 people on our waiting list. We continually have about 60 CSA members, and it continues to grow. But my focus was really, well, the community's focus was saying, Candace, let's do something that's really focused on food justice and getting food to all people, which was always my passion, but the community really pushed it forward. So that's kind of why I want to talk about community support in doing farm work. It's really important. You can put a garden anywhere, but if the community doesn't come out to support it, it's not going to be sustainable and it's not going to last. So with this neighborhood-supported agriculture, it's been so wonderful because we've had such community support and people wanting us to kind of transform their yards. We have a waiting list for that as well. And yeah, it's been pretty incredible. So 3 years ago, we decided to apply for our 501c3, and we got it. And there was the first year was just kind of doing sliding scale CSA program. We donate to 2 local women's shelters, the Family Tree and the Denver Safe House. And so we're trying to figure out, well, what are we going to do now? What's our next step? And a woman who lives in the Santa Fe Art District called me up one day and she said, you know, there's this ugly empty parking lot right in between 8th and 9th on Calumet, and you know, let's put a garden in. So we got the community involved, and we sat down, and we strategized, and we turned 6,500 square feet into a beautiful, amazing garden with a community space. We have a stage there, so this is a garden that we're looking at, mostly raised beds, but we have a community space. We have a stage. You can see there's high school students filming here, so we work with, again, partnerships really important. Denver Open Media came and did, with their high school youth, they did a whole music video to a Flowbot song, and so it's really, the space is for the community. They come and utilize it as much as possible. We're going to hopefully work with the boxing club nearby. They're a nonprofit and they want to do a barbecue, so really it's a space for anyone and everyone. So that was our kind of first big, let's take this project on, and we decided to do a pay-what-you-can farm stand on site. This neighborhood is mixed income. It's becoming gentrified, so there's a lot of like lower income households, but then kind of middle class people are moving in, and so there's kind of this angst almost between what's going on there. So this garden has really become a come together for people with the pay what you can farm stand. So people, we have a suggested donated price. They pay that, or they pay less, or they pay above to give us a little bit extra. It's been pretty incredible, and so that's kind of speared what we've done from then on. So that was from last year, and this is another project we took on last year with the help of Denver Urban Gardens and Flow Food. Bless them, they really helped us start this awesome garden at Columbian Elementary School. It's 6,500 square feet that we took over. We put in the kitchen community, donated these beautiful raised beds, and again, this was not spurred on by us. It was a teacher that came to Urbiculture and said, hey, you know, we would like a garden here, you know, would Urbiculture be interested? Because we have a lot of other gardens in that neighborhood, and we said yes. And so we took it on, and the kids, we have a free summer program for the kids there. We hired 2 high school students from North High School, which is a neighboring high school, that help take care of it. They water it every day. They come to the summer program and teach the kids, and then they do a pay-what-you-can farm stand as well on site for anybody in that neighborhood. So here they are with they're very happy about all the food they just look at that beautiful food. And then this year we took on, we collaborated with the Celebration Community Church on Iowa and Birch, and we had a bunch of people in this neighborhood that really wanted a garden in this neighborhood. There's not very much. There's one at Ellis Elementary School right there. It's one of the Doug community gardens, but they kind of wanted something similar to how Urbiculture runs their farms. And so we worked with Celebration. We went to Celebration Church and said, well, what are you doing with this weed-stricken lot? And they said, nothing. I said, let's put a garden in. They said, okay. And that's just what happened. So here we are. This is a 15,000 square foot lot that we transformed. This is one of our big working days. We're going to have our first farm stand this Saturday, and the community is so excited, and just really we're trying to work with Ellis and doing the school program there, and trying to get as many community partnerships, the YMCA, as possible. Again, that's super important, partnerships in the community and people that want to be engaged. And yeah, so basically, with the community partnerships, last year we partnered with the Children's Museum, and they came over and did like a whole series for kids on pollinators, so you can see them all dressed up in butterfly suits, and they were running through the garden. This year we're going to work with Art Street, which is an organization that works with youth, at-risk youth that are really kind of art-focused, and they're going to come paint a mural at the garden, and we've also partnered with Whole Foods, a couple of them, where their team members come and help in the gardens every week, which is pretty amazing. And then we have another garden that we started this year. It's on 52nd and Federal. It's a new kind of transformation that's happening. It's called ARIA, and they're putting in like co-housing, and they wanted to do a farm site, and the people that are going into the co-housing community wanted to have a farm site, so we took over 5,000 square feet, and we have our first farm stand there on Wednesday. And as far as like kind of what we just want to do as we go forward is really empty lots and bringing food to these empty lots and doing these pay-what-you-can farm stands, more donations to local shelters, super important, just food access to all people and beautifying our neighborhoods. That's really where our target is. I know I said questions, but we're going to do that later. So thank you so much for allowing me to talk. And now we have Leah Bree and the beautiful GreenLeaf team.
We're just doing a little bit of transition in here as we've got a big group and want to make sure you can hear all of them.
All right, we're GreenLeaf. I'm Demetrius, and
I'm Ruby.
I'm Rhiannon.
And we're going to do a prezi on who we are and what we do. So, who we are? Well, obviously we're GreenLeaf and youth. So, what is special about GreenLeaf is the fact that it's all about the youth. Like, everything that goes on, everything that happens is run by the youth. Mainly the youth. We plant everything. We make all the decisions on what we're going to sell, what we're going to plant, how we're going to plant it, where we're going to plant it, the prices, just all the different, we have different teams too, which we'll get to later about how the youth go through that process and how to plant and set up the prices and do stuff like this. So basically the youth run everything that goes on in GreenLeaf. The youth are GreenLeaf. We went through ages 14 through 18 from mostly Denver and from low-income families. There are 12 languages spoken on the crew, this was back in the summer of 2012, and now I think it's a little bit less, maybe like 9 or 8, but it's still a lot of languages to be spoken between a lot of just not that many people that are there. So let's head over to the next one. Collaboration. So what we do is we collaborate with these different organizations such as C2C, the Grow House for Not a Farm, Produce Denver, and lots of volunteers that we have. Like we'll have set volunteer days where we'll ask for volunteers to come in, and we'll get a lot of volunteers come in from the community, families that come and will help us work, so that way later on in the season when the produce is produced, they get to see what they helped with on the volunteer days. Next, do you want to explain this? Or do you want more? Okay. Well, this is our word cloud. This is everything that we think that GreenLeaf is. This is all the words that come to all the youth's minds when we think of GreenLeaf. So feel free to look around and just see all the different things that it is to the youth and what it is to us as just working there and being there, and how it's impacted us.
Okay, so what we are is like you are what you eat and eat what you grow. So in your community, where we're at now, the sustainability part, we grow many different foods, such as tomatoes and beans and stuff like that. This is all for the community, and like we have a farm stand that we grow at.
Well, mostly what we're trying to say for this one is that if you grow in your community, that gives you and your community access to all these different foods that you can find at Walmart and places, but it's not as fresh, and there's all kinds of stuff they add to it to make it better. But in my opinion, when you have fresh food, it's much better. So when you eat fresh food, you're going to be extremely healthy because fresh food is extremely healthy for you. So, yeah.
Okay, so what we do is food. So basically, our definition, this is based off of personal opinion mostly, is what is food is the question that I will ask. Is it something that you eat, or is it something that's good for you? Is it something that will help you, or is it just something that you use to fill your belly? To me, I feel like GreenLeaf is more of an organization that uses food as a term to help people become healthier, and it's not just there to help them fill their bellies. It's there to make them feel better, and yes, it's just to help them overall. It's just to let them know that we're there for them and that we're helping them grow good, healthy produce. Cultivating powerful youth and food justice through urban agriculture. So what this is what we are doing is we're taking the youth from our community and we're putting them in a farm, and some have a background of farming and some have never farmed before and don't know what they just think of planting is just putting a seed in the ground, watering it, and letting it sit in the sun, when in reality it's a lot more complex than just that. It's there's a lot more factors that go into it. So it helps you or us as the youth appreciate the produce that we grow more, and appreciate what goes into our mouths just a little bit more, and all the hard work that other people are doing to make sure that we're eating good, healthy food, or just, yeah, and then
so we also learn and teach. We also have games. And we also have straight talk, which is our serious moments. When do we actually do all those things? We do it during the summer, which is something we're doing right now. We worked 5 days a week from 8 to 12. And we also do it during the school, during the school program. So that's when all those different groups divide into different groups and do different things, such as?
So what the groups do, I'll let Rhiannon explain the Ag Ops team, but I'll go into the GreenLeaf scope first. So we have 3 groups that run GreenLeaf, and that's Ag Ops, Ed Ops, and GreenLeaf to Go. GreenLeaf to Go is the marketing distribution team. Ag Ops is the agriculture team, which they help plant and plan everything, but there's more details than just that. And Ed Ops is the education department. So GreenLeaf to Go, with marketing comes what prices are they going to set for the produce. Like they go around to different places, Walmart, Target, just any place that sells food that's in the area, and we take their produce that isn't organic, that has been sprayed with pesticides, that's been shipped in refrigerators, yes, waxed, and we lower the price. And this is fresh organic produce grown from the ground, grown personally, and it's right there. And what's neat about it is that with our marketing, it's really neat. So when the customers come in from the community to buy our produce, they not only just buy our produce, but they get to see it being picked and washed right there in front of them, so they know it's fresh from, not just fresh like, oh, it's been washed and it's it's fresh, like it's here, it's ready for you to eat, but it's fresh because it's right off the vine, it's right out of the dirt, it's right there, it's been washed, and it's right there for them to buy. Other things that go with the marketing distribution is canvassing and flyer dropping. Canvassing, we go around and we knock on the neighborhood stores, our community stores, and we try to get them to come to events. And our first farm stand, which usually happens at the end of July, beginning of August. And also donations, which we do Project Angel Heart, I think. I'm not sure because I'm not part of GreenLeaf to go, but we do, I think, 3 or 4 different organizations which we donate to some of our produce. And that's also a part of GreenLeaf to go. They get to distribute all the produce. So some of it will not only be sold and it won't be donated, but we have a % that youth get to take home for their families and that the youth get to eat. Next would be EdUps. And
EdUps is the learning and the teaching group. We just finished giving our very first class, Adventure Prep. We just go out into the community, bring GreenLeaf to people, and talk about it, and try to have youth come and join and volunteer and see what we actually do to get GreenLeaf involved and make it bigger and have more people know about it. And then Nexus,
what AgOps does is during like the seasons when we're not harvesting or growing things, mostly during winter, and I think part of fall, right? We'll plan out what we're going to plant for the next coming year. So this year we spent a lot of time planning where we're going to plant stuff and which beds their plants are going to be in, and also what needs to be absolutely needs to be planted, and all the different seeds that we have to get. And we also go around and ask for donations. Recently, we went over to Paulino Gardens and asked them if they would be willing to donate a couple of different plants. And, well, I think that's about it, I guess.
Start the seeds.
Yeah, we start the seeds by planting them earlier on so they grow, so we can actually plant them, because if you just start straight from the ground outside, it's not going to grow because of like the frost and everything and the snow. So over at the grow house, we would put seedlings in there, ask them to take care of them. And also at Green Spaces, where I guess our headquarters are, we have seedlings that we started. So later in the season of summer or spring, we can plant those, and they're ready to like grow and give us all their produce that they grow, I guess.
Now, or where? Where now? Okay, so where? So where we grow our produce, this is our first site that you're seeing in the very beginning. It's called Mini Eden or Mini Eden. And this is just a lot, a side of house in our community. And this is where we first started in the beginning of, I believe, 2010, summer of 2010. And at the end of the summer, it looked like this. So we'll take you to our next site and do the exact same thing. This is Sustainability Park, or SPARK. And when we first got this, the summer of 2011, it looked like this. This used to be Denver Housing Authority, and they turned it into this. Why? We want to grow our own produce, our own food. We want to be a part of the process. It's just an amazing thing. We want people to get healthy. We want our community to become healthier, and we want them to eat better, and we want them to have that access to healthy organic produce. And it's fun and delicious. Youth are the is that farm? Future. I'm sorry, forget my own frizzy. Youth are the future. So without youth, basically there would be no future. If the youth didn't start now, who's going to start it later is basically what it is. So that's why it's nice for GreenLeaf to be youth-led and to be basically all youth, because later on in life we'll have these skills to come back and do things like this times the amount of people that we've brought into it. So it's going to be really nice. And why not? Community and collaboration and world domination.
In a dominated world with asparagus in our left hand and like wheat in our right.
GreenLeaf is healthy.
Food. Organic. People.
Knowledge.
Delicious. Time.
Peace.
Cooking.
What are you? And that's it.
Great. Thank you very much to the crowd from GreenLeaf. That was exciting. That was the first time they've done a webinar. I know they've done this presentation in front of people. It is really hard to do it when you don't have the crowd in front of you, and I think they did an outstanding job, and we really appreciate that. So thanks to that crowd. As a reminder, it's time to get your questions in. We've received a few, and we'll be asking those momentarily. But if you've got other questions to ask, if you could please write those in now, and if you know who you would like to answer the questions, that is extremely helpful to us. And just a few comments from me and LiveWell wrapping up. I think we just heard from a wonderful, diverse set of models for ways in which we can grow food within our communities to feed our own communities. And I hope that you've all learned a little bit from these different models and to help you determine what's the right model for you and for your community and different approaches that you might evolve. There are certainly some key themes. The idea of community engagement, who are the people you're trying to reach, make sure that they're part of the process is absolutely essential. And the theme of partnership. No one is doing any of this work alone, and that's crucial. That we really can't solve these problems alone. And so the community engagement and partnership in and of themselves provide to an end, but they're also essential to the success, the tremendous impact that these groups have had on health. I love the way that the youth talk about it, but then also hearing from some of our other partners as to how much produce they are generating and getting out to the communities it just makes me smile, and it's really exciting. So we're going to, I think I'm going to hand it over to Alex, who's going to ask questions. So please keep those coming in, and then we'll have some final comments at the end.
So we have a few questions for Shannon with Denver Urban Gardens. Shannon, could you restate the average plot size, please?
The average plot size, it's 10 by 15, but that's an average. It varies site by site based on what's most appropriate for that site. Some gardens are smaller, and the plot size might be 4 by 8, and others are more expansive, and there's more room, and theirs might be, I don't know, 15 by 20. It's all over the place. So that 10 by 15 is an average.
Thank you. Another question for you, Shannon. Does Doug fund the building of gardens in these communities?
So Denver Urban Gardens does help fund the building of the gardens. So throughout the process of creating and establishing a community garden, we're truly a partner in the process, and we see ourselves side by side with community members, with other community organizations. And so while we are fundraising to help build the garden, we're also hoping that those we're partnering with will be helping to fundraise as well. And I would say to a large extent, it's not, the partnership and the fundraising piece is also about that buy-in and ownership from the community and the community members and the organizations that are involved. So it's almost the exercise is more important than the actual amount of funds raised. So I would also say on that, a community garden takes really 2 to 4 years to really build out with your amenities and everything there, and that's because of that funding and building it up over time and having community members take ownership of the things that they feel are important in the garden and what they want to add over time.
Thank you. Our next question is for Eric with Revision. Do you have plans for expanding to communities outside of Westwood?
Thank you for the question, Will. We are actually in, I think it's about 12 neighborhoods in Southwest Denver, all contiguous to Westwood, but we have not ventured outside of Southwest Denver or Denver. We do have plans probably in the next 5 years to look at that. Right now, we're still finishing up, I think, trying to establish this co-op model, and that really is our ownership and transfer of ownership piece. When the co-op is established and owned and run by the community, then we would look at venturing into other communities. And but again, for us, it's really about being invited, not coming with an out-of-the-box model, but making sure that we are responding to the needs of residents.
Thank you. Our next question is for both Candace with Urbiculture and Eric. What is a barrier from creating these gardens on your waiting list?
I think the biggest barrier is human power. It takes a lot of work to, we have 13 plots throughout Denver that we grow food on, and it's a lot of work. And so I would say probably just human power, and then financial. We're always looking for funding, and so if you don't have the funding to build out gardens or whatnot, then you can't help the waiting list. But I always, anybody that's on our waiting list, I send them off to any other CSAs that's around Denver. That's it's huge for me. So making sure that even if they can't get a CSA with us, they get it through someone else.
I would echo that. It's human capital and financial resources. For us, we're really trying to figure out how to put the infrastructure in place because we're directly supporting and helping to establish all of the gardens. So this year, 200 gardens. We had a really short spring. It was difficult to work around the weather in terms of delivering compost and amending soil. Financially, it cost us a little over between $500 and $600 per garden. About 200 of that is in materials and resources to establish a brand new garden, and then the rest is paying resident promotoras to support that garden. And so until we develop some better funding and really we had to scale down our growth this year.
Thank you. Our next question is for our GreenLeaf team. How much produce do you sell?
Since usually was the usual constant person, we usually, it varies day by day, but by the end of the season we sell most of our produce there, which is several thousand pounds of produce. So basically, we just bring it in and we sell it right there, and yeah.
Thank you. We have another question for Eric with Revision. How are you funded, and do you train community members on the business model to be able to continue the work if your funding were to go away?
Great question. Our funding really changes from year to year. We're primarily, at this point, grants and foundation funded, also some public funds as well as individual donors and sponsors of gardens. And we do train members on our business model. That's one key aspect of the Promotora model is that it's a train-the-trainer approach, and so they're the ones that are really teaching and training community members, not us. But the co-op model is really our what we think is the right way to hand over not only ownership but also to ensure that financial sustainability so that we can go away, and that it's not dependent on outside funding, but that there is a business enterprise that is generating enough revenue to cover the support and expansion of this community food system.
Thank you. We have another question for you coming in, Eric. Does Revision fund the installation of backyard gardens for low-income families?
And I think the follow-up on that is, do they also help cover the cost? So yes, we do. We charge as a sliding scale. It's anywhere from $30 to $70 per family. The majority of families pay about $30, and that doesn't even come close to covering the cost, so we do rely on grants and donations to cover the rest of it. That cost is just so that they have a little bit of investment in their garden. Idea going forward with the co-op model is that the co-op would actually be the one that is paying for the gardens, and then in return it serves as sort of a microloan where families are repaying that loan by providing food back to the co-op.
Thank you. Our next question, let's try to move the microphone around. Another question for the GreenLeaf youth. Could you briefly talk about what your involvement with GreenLeaf has meant to you and your family?
GreenLeaf to me is basically a family that has changed my life to making me be more healthier and help me a lot with health, especially since I've always had health issues. So to me it's a big change in life, but it's also a way for me to help myself and my family become healthier. So.
For me, okay. For me, my involvement with GreenLeaf has meant like a lot to me because it's a good way to get to know each other and kind of step out of like little box that I put myself in a while ago. For my family, and well, a thing that my mom says is that it keeps me out of trouble because it's something that I love to do. So my mom's pretty happy about the fact that I'm doing like what I love to do, which is garden. I love to grow stuff. The concept of being able to grow something that actually lives and it doesn't die on you. It's really inspirational. It kind of like opens up things that like different sorts of paths that you could go down, like different careers that you're debating on whether or not to take. So.
Well, what my involvement with GreenLeaf has meant to me is a lot of changes in life and a lot of positive changes. That is, it's just like a second family. Every time I go to GreenLeaf, it's like it's not just hanging out with Ruby or Rhiannon or Leah. It's hanging out with the family. It's hanging out with people that you feel really close to and get connected with really quick. When I first started, I didn't think it would mean that much to me. I just thought it was just going to be a job, and I was just like, I wasn't really psyched about it. But once I started volunteering and once I got hired, that's when I knew, like, hey, GreenLeaf really likes me. Let's see how it goes. And ever since then, I became a big part of GreenLeaf and a big representative of GreenLeaf and just a big, huge impact on GreenLeaf. And we all have, in our own way, we all have our own special abilities that we bring into GreenLeaf. And for me, it's just a new way of life. Becoming a diabetic about 4.5 years ago was hard, and especially with all the junk food that I used to eat as a little kid and all the sodas and all the just the bad stuff that I never really had. I never knew what a real salad was or what vegetables were. I never knew how real vegetables tasted or real fruits tasted because I never really had them. But once I came into GreenLeaf, I started eating them more, and I started changing my diet, and I started noticing a lot more changes in my energy and my involvement in a lot more other activities besides the GreenLeaf. It changed my way of life. It changed from me just staying at home and being a regular teenage kid, just laying there playing video games or doing anything, to getting outside every day, not playing video games even an hour a month. Like, I'm usually outside playing football or something with kids in my neighborhood. I get them, that help me get them too off of the couch and off of video games, that help me start up little activities that I do with kids in my neighborhood, get them like, oh, you want to go play football? All right, let's go play football. Let's go throw a ball. Let's go play foursquare, tetherball, like anything to do to get any kids in the neighborhood to just be healthier. It's what my motive is now, and it's just it's working. And it's to my family, it's a different change. Like, they were used to the same lifestyle as me, and once I became a diabetic, they had to change along with me. We all had to change together. And that's what a family is. You change together, you do everything together, and you support each other. So it was just GreenLeaf is a big positive thing for me, and it's helped me go a long way in life, and I'm really thankful it came into my life. So, yeah.
GreenLeaf itself is a family, so we're all here for you, bro.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we have one last question for Shannon with Denver Urban Gardens. Shannon, how do you determine the site for a new community garden? Do you hold focus groups to determine the level of interest? and commitment in the neighborhood?
So when Denver Urban Gardens is thinking about establishing a community garden, it's because a community member came to us and suggested that they thought it would be a great benefit to their community. And so one of our first questions to that community member is this a pet project? Are you the only person interested? Are a lot of people interested? We really want to make sure that if there's a garden that's part of a community, that it's owned by the community. Denver Urban Gardens really works alongside communities, so the whole time we're helping establish a garden, we're also kind of stepping back and having the community take more and more ownership in the running of the garden and having their fingerprint on it. So we don't ever walk into a community and say there should be a garden here. There's always a garden because the community members asked for it to be there, and they showed broad interest in having a community garden at that space.
Thank you, Shannon. So we need to wrap it up, but I encourage you to utilize the contact information that you see on the screen in front of you. We, again, will be sending this information out in a follow-up webinar, follow-up email, and the webinar and presentation will be available tomorrow on the LiveWell Colorado website. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Lisa Walborg for some closing remarks.
Just a couple quick wrap-ups. First, thank you, everyone who asked the great questions and all of our great presenters, and do encourage you to use that contact information and the resources that are outlined. We also have a great new resource that was recently released and was part of a webinar, I think, maybe 2 or 3 months ago, and that is Local Food for Local Need, and it's a guide for food donation for Colorado gardeners. This is another example of great partnerships. It was put together really inspired by the work of Produce for Pantries, which is a partnership in and of itself. But Hunger Free Colorado has jumped on board to really support them, and then LiveWell Colorado provided some sort of support because we see it as a resource that can be replicated in other places as well. So you can find that on our website. And you'll also, with the email that Alex will be sending out with the resources and the link to the webinar, there will be a link to a survey. We really appreciate you taking a few minutes. I mean, it really is about 2 minutes long to just share your feedback on this survey and any thoughts you have for future surveys. And then one last plug that I have to put out there right now, given we're talking about food production, is the Farm Bill. And the Farm Bill is will be going to the House, I believe, this week and into next week. So if you are not already on any advocacy networks, to learn more about the Farm Bill, we do have links to that on our website. You can join LiveWell Colorado's Grassroots Advocacy Action Power Program, getting it somewhat right, but really to speak up for SNAP funding and retaining the structure of SNAP, and for retaining programs like the EBT and Farmers Market. Those are some things that really underlie a number of the different presentations you heard today. So do encourage you to speak up to your members of House of Representatives and our senators. So with that, we will wrap up and look forward to talking to you all in our next webinar.
The organizer has ended